Chris Mackowski of Emerging Civil War, and I am in Fort Hill Cemetery in Auburn, New York, paying my respects today to former Secretary of State William Seward. Seward died in 1872 at the age of 71 after an illustrious career highlighted by his service as Secretary of State for Abraham Lincoln. But he had served as a governor of New York. He had served in the United States Senate representing New York. He was considered a leading contender for the presidential nomination in the election of 1860. But an anti-Seward faction looking to block him recruited Abraham Lincoln. And of course, there were many factions running for presidency, the presidency that year, including Salmon Chase, Simon Cameron, Seward, the foremost and a leading voice of abolition. So Lincoln, as a dark horse, kind of came in and snatched that away. But then he brought all those guys into his cabinet as the famous team of rivals, as Doris Kearns Goodwin has pointed out. Seward, among those rivals, becomes the closest to Lincoln, who brings him into his confidence. Seward at first, of course, thought, who is this yokel who has beaten me for the nomination? And Lincoln won him over, and the two had a very close, very fruitful partnership. Lincoln brought him into his confidences in ways that he didn't bring other members of that team of rivals, whom he frequently consulted, but Seward was in on a lot of the big decisions. At the same time that Lincoln was assassinated in April of 1865, an assassin tried to kill Seward as well. He was severely stabbed. He'll survive. He'll stay on as Secretary of State for the new Andrew Johnson administration, which is, of course, a tumultuous time. During that time, he's best known for orchestrating the purchase of Alaska, which will eventually go on to statehood in the 20th century, but serves as an important source of resources for America as it continues its burgeoning expansion westward. It was called Seward's Folly. A lot of people thought it was kind of a silly idea, buying a big chunk of this big property far away from the rest of the continental United States. But Seward's foresight proved to be pretty instrumental. So he's a guy I've come to respect a lot because of the work that he did in supporting Lincoln. In fact, his tomb there actually says he was faithful, and that is true in his relationship to his constituencies, to his wife, who is buried next to him right there, and of course to Abraham Lincoln himself. So this is actually a really cool garden cemetery. There are other folks that we're going to go explore and see here in just a moment. So join me here in Auburn, New York at Fort Hill Cemetery. On the next knoll over from Seward, we can visit the grave of Emery Upton, buried next to his wife, Emily. Upton, of course, was one of those young men who graduates from West Point, looking to make a name for himself, throwing his 121st New York into every single thick fight he can find as a way to earn a reputation. His men didn't necessarily love him for that, but they did respect him because he led from the front. He is going to earn promotion, become a brigadier general, best known for his assault on the 10th of May 1864 at Spotsylvania, and his men, of course, will be in the thick of the fight for the Muleshoe Salient on the 12th of May as well. He will also be involved with the capture of Myers Hill on the 14th of May. But Upton, of course, after the war, becomes one of the most influential tacticians in Army history. He'll go overseas to observe military actions over there before coming back and writing a tactical manual that is absolutely revolutionary. And it changes the way the Army actually does its tactics all the way up through World War II. Leads a sad life, though. His wife dies early, leaving him depressed. He's going to suffer from what some scholars think is perhaps a brain tumor, and he will end up taking his own life while he's stationed out in San Francisco in 1881. Just if we turn the camera around, speaking to all the history that's here, Miles Keough, he is a soldier of fortune who's going to end up serving in the United States Cavalry. He'll be killed by the Sioux Indians at Little Bighorn. And then next to him, we have another cavalryman. Andrew Alexander is going to serve in the East all the way up through the Gettysburg Campaign, involved in a lot of different cavalry actions. And then he'll go out west and be involved with the Atlanta Campaign, the Nashville Campaign, and finally earning a promotion to Brevet Brigadier General for capturing Selma, Alabama late in the war. So lots of really cool history here at Fort Hill Cemetery. We've got one more really important, really cool stop to make. Our final stop here in the cemetery is at the grave of Harriet Tubman. She actually settled here in Auburn, New York after the Civil War because she had purchased property here in 1859. And she settled in to take care of her aging parents. and stayed. Tubman was born around 1820 in Maryland. She escaped to Philadelphia, only to then return back to Maryland to help her family escape as well. That's going to be the first of some 13 trips that she will make along the Underground Railroad to free more than 70 people over the course of her career as an emancipationist. She knew John Brown and helped him to plan the raid on Harper's Ferry, although she was not involved herself because Brown had to postpone. During the Civil War, she's going to be involved with the Union Army, working as a nurse, as a cook, as an armed spy. After the war, she comes back up here to Auburn to settle in. She'll get involved with the women's rights movement, which of course is based just down the road from Auburn at Seneca Falls. As I look at the grave, there are fresh flowers, there are plastic all-weather flowers here, there's the United States flag, the Pan-African flag, we've got her $20 bill, her face on the $20 bill, we've got Canadian money, we've got all sorts of testimonials here that just speak to the fact that this woman still resonates with people today in ways that bring them here to leave tokens of their esteem, to show that connection, to show that appreciation. Really one of the great heroes in American history. She'll live a long life. The back of her monument says, "Servant of God, well done," and well done indeed. Fort Hill Cemetery is really a lovely spot, and I encourage you to visit if you're passing through Auburn, New York, for a little taste of the history that it has to offer. There was a veterans home here that has a burial site for its homeless indigent Civil War veterans that it took care of, and there's a monument there. There are, of course, veterans sprinkled all throughout the cemetery as well. So it's a beautiful, beautiful spot to explore. I'm Chris Mackowski for Emerging Civil War. We'll see you online and on the battlefield.